Well, folks, it's been about a week and a half, but we are back on an all-new Terranadome. Of course, my name is Scott Terrana. I got a big head. We call it the dome because I got a big chrome dome. Last name's Terrana. Put them together. It's the Terranadome. We're back. It's a quick hits, special quick hits edition of the show. And we are going to fly through our 5 bullet points very quickly today, folks. Because to be honest with you, we're really just waiting until the NFL season comes along. Am I right or am I right? So, we'll do a little bit of NFL stuff in this show. First, we're going to talk about the Roman Anthony extension with the Boston Red Sox. That is a big one. It's been about a week since that happened, but we will discuss. Then we'll talk about the Patriots preseason game number one. Did we learn anything? And we'll talk about game number two this week at Minnesota, but admittedly, won't take up a lot of our time. Then, of course, Tom Brady's statue unveiled at Gillette Stadium last Friday night. We'll just talk about that and whether we have critiques of it or whether we liked it or not. Then over to NASCAR. We don't do a lot of NASCAR on this show, but we'll do NASCAR today. We're going to talk about how NASCAR has a car problem. And then finally, I will give you my top 12 picks in the fantasy football draft, of course, PPR leagues for the 2025 season. And I will give you some potential busts and some sleeper picks just so you have something to wet your whistle with because, of course, fantasy drafts are happening within the next couple of weeks. It's the Terranadome. It's all new, and it starts right now.
Known as fair square throughout my years, so I growl at the living foul. Black to the bone, my home is your home.
Well, welcome to Terranadome.
The Terranadome, and it starts right now. All right, welcome back into the show, folks. Of course, my name is Scotty Terrana. It's that Terranadome here on a Friday, a beautiful Friday here in Southern New England, August 15th. And folks, unfortunately, only 2 weeks until the summer dies down, but that's okay. We're not too worried about it. Hold on just 1 second. All right, folks, that's better. I just had to eliminate a little bit of background noise because, of course, we still got the heat. The heat's still turning up here in Southern New England. We got about 85-degree temperatures today. It's a beautiful day, but we are not here to talk about the weather. We are here to talk about some topics. It's the quick hits episode of the Terranadome. We start number one bullet point, number one quick hit, number one. The Boston Red Sox have signed outfielder Roman Anthony, just 21 years old, mind you, just 21 years old, to an 8-year, $130 million extension with incentives that can take that contract up to 230 million. And people obviously I've had some conversations with people on this topic. I think it is an absolute home run for the team. It is a steal for what I think this kid is going to be, which is a perennial all-star and someone that could even compete for MVP awards, within the life of this contract. This contract only locks him up until he's 29 years old. They forego the arbitration years, and considering what some of these big time superstars have gotten, this is an absolute steal for a kid that is already drawing comparisons. And I'm not just talking about verbally, but comparisons to things that Ted Williams did in a Red Sox uniform. And I'm not kidding about that. This kid has all the makings of being an absolute star in in Major League Baseball. And I think that at this point, it's hard not to love this contract extension. I know that certain radio shows in Boston tried to crap on it and say, well, this is the Red Sox acting like a mid-market team. And I don't see it that way. And the reason I don't see it that way is because the Atlanta Braves did the same exact thing with a lot of their core players, and it only led them to one World Series back in 2021. But it's something that smart teams do. Lock these guys up ahead of time, see if they'll take the money. Clearly, Roman Anthony was willing to do that. So you have a guy that'll only be making $16.2 million a year. And, he talked about in his press conference after he signed the deal, he talked about how it was more important than the money to him was being here and being a Red Sox and winning here as a Boston Red Sox. And listen, whatever company line you want to spin, that's fine with me. But ultimately, what this does is this keeps it so that the team will still be willing to go out and sign guys like Alex Bregman to a long-term contract. But you had Boston programs, specifically at one time slot on one station, that tried to crap all over this and say, well, it's just the team's just acting like a mid-market team. What? But that's literally just spin for your talking points, because there's no downside to this deal. There's no downside to it. The kid makes it to the major leagues at 20, 21 years old, and he looks like he's going to be a perennial all-star. Sure, the home run power hasn't been there yet, but if you look at the minor league track record, he's got plenty of home run power. He spits on pitches that many seasoned major leaguers will strike out on. There is nothing, this is nothing short of a slam dunk home run type of deal for the Boston Red Sox. The incentives can take it up to 230 million, even if he hits all of those incentives, which I can tell you he's not going to, because one of them is the Rookie of the Year, and he's not going to beat Nick Kurtz, the first baseman out in Oakland who almost had a 5 home run game. He's not going to beat Nick Kurtz for the Rookie of the Year, so he's not going to hit that full 230. But even if he did, it's still less than $30 million a year. In this current landscape, where you have guys like Aaron Judge, who deserves it, but is making $40 million a year. You have Juan Soto, who's got a 15-year contract for $700 million. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., again, not saying these guys don't deserve it, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. also has a $500 million contract. This is a win for the Boston Red Sox. You can look forward to Roman Anthony being in left field for this team until at least 2034. So we have that to look forward to. On to quick hits, point number 2. It's Pat's preseason game number 1, and did we learn anything? And I'm going to be honest with you, Patriots, they blew out the Washington Commanders 48-18 in preseason game number 1. They also had a very successful, by all accounts, a very successful joint practice section with the Commanders 2 days before this game. But ultimately, in preseason game number 1, I think the only real takeaway we have is that Travion Henderson, who they selected in the second round of the draft this year, is incredibly fast and is going to make a huge difference for this team. Obviously, returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown in that game, and this guy's a difference maker. Elliott Wolf is going to have some egg on his face, because ultimately, you signed Ramondre Stevenson to one of the 6 wealthiest running back contracts in the league before last season, simply and really unprompted and for no reason. And now it appears that just a year later, Ramondre Stevenson's going to lose his job. And I think he should. Stevenson's not a bad back. Ramondre Stevenson is not a bad back. He's a pretty good running back. He's got fumble problems, which is, of course, never good for a running back. But just doesn't have game-breaking, home run hitting speed. Doesn't run outside the tackles, can't break it outside. He's not fast enough to do that. He's really going to be best suited for a goal line role on this team, and I think that he may actually end up having that. Now, as far as preseason game number 2, which is unfortunately now, because of the way that the NFL schedule now works, and you've got 17 regular season games and now only 3 preseason games as opposed to 16 and 4 for the longest time. Preseason game number 2 is the only game that you can really extrapolate anything from. So apparently the Patriots this week, and the game number 2 is tomorrow night in Minnesota. It's preseason game number 2. They have apparently had some up and down joint practices this week with the Vikings. Apparently in day 1, the offense really dominated, and in game 2, the defense got shelled. So you've got all that going on, and we'll see. I expect Drake May and the starters to play for a full half tomorrow night. I think we should see that at least, because in game number 3, nobody's going to play. None of those starters are going to play, and it's going to be fringe roster guys, and we can see if they make it. By the way, the Minnesota Vikings have one of the best rosters in the National Football League, and This will be interesting to say the least. I don't really have any predictions because it's preseason. You don't know what's going to happen. If you're a bettor in this game, depending on the point total, I might go under, even though last week most all of these games went way over on the point total. But it looks to me, at least on paper, like this should be a competitive game. I will say this much: Minnesota quarterback J.J. McCarthy, who they selected very high in the first round last year, I've never thought was really a real NFL caliber quarterback coming out of Michigan. They let Big D Sam Darnold go. I just had to say Big D Sam Darnold one time in this show. They let Sam Darnold go. He played very well for the Vikings last year, at least up until the final regular season game and the playoff game. He was a disaster, right? Started seeing ghostly. He was on the Jets again. But I don't think J.J. McCarthy is a legitimate NFL quarterback. And I could be very wrong on this. There's a chance that I could be extremely wrong on this take. But I think that the Patriots should win this game tomorrow night. Again, it's preseason. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, right? It really doesn't. But at the same time, it looks to me like a Minnesota team that has all the pieces in place except at the quarterback position. And we've seen how that's turned out in the past in the NFL. So there we go. 2 points down, three more to go. It's the quick hits episode of the Terranadome. And we are coming at you on a Friday afternoon in beautiful southern New England. And we are just a couple weeks away from the NFL preview show, where, of course, Josh Morris will join me on the program somewhere between August 27th and August 29th. I will have him on the show. And we will do what we did last year, which was a bit of a just we're kind of spitballing a little bit, right? But we're going to throw out some what we predict who's going to win the divisions, awards, records for your respective teams. So make sure you check that one out in a couple weeks, folks. But quick hits point number three. It's quick hit point number three. And this one is about our man, TB12. Before the game last Friday night at home to open to open the preseason against the Washington Commanders, Tom Brady's statue was unveiled at Gillette Stadium. A 12-foot tall statue outside of Gillette Stadium. Before Tom came up and before it was actually unveiled, Robert Kraft had to do some cringy stuff, as he normally does. Orchids of Asia, we're looking at you, Robert Kraft. But he had to sit there and talk about how Tom Brady's won 6 Super Bowls here in New England. And yeah, that's true. But Brady also went to Tampa Bay for 4 years and won another Super Bowl there. And Kraft likes to do this thing where he acts like Brady never played anywhere else. And that's simply not the case. But regardless, Brady has said himself that he's a Patriot for life, and we appreciate that. So the 12-foot tall statue gets unveiled, and it's just Brady holding his fist up in the air. It's not a signature pose. It's not him about to unleash the football, and it's not him holding a Lombardi trophy, which he won 6 of them here in New England. You had golden opportunities, and Kraft said they spent over 20,000 hours to construct this statue, and you couldn't figure out a better pose. Oh, and by the way, Brady's head, he looks like a pinhead in the statue compared to the rest of his body. Like it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, I'm not a sculptor, I'm not an artist, I'm not a professional, but you had an opportunity to really encapsulate the best player in the history of the game, and you couldn't figure out how to do it. So that sucks. And that's the statue that's going to sit out there for all time. So that's point number 3. And to Brady's credit, when he came up on the when he came up to the podium, he made some jokes about the Jets and about Coach Belichick, and he said that he appreciated the statue, and that's cool. Brady at least sucked it up because it really isn't the best statue that you're ever going to see, but it's there. He's immortalized there. in front of Gillette Stadium forever. That's 3 points down, folks. We got 2 more to go. This is a quick edition of the Terranadome. We're doing quick hits today. Quick hits. And there's not a ton of content here, guys. So, unfortunately for you, maybe, but fortunately for me, we're going to talk about NASCAR. The NASCAR Cup Series has a car problem. NASCAR car problem. This car that the Cup Series runs, and if you're not familiar with NASCAR, the NASCAR Cup Series is the top series in the sport of stock car racing. Okay? You have ARCA Menard Series, you have, and of course there's there's other series below ARCA, but the 4 main ones are the ARCA Menard Series, the Craftsman Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, which is the AAA series, if you will, and then the NASCAR Cup Series. Well, folks, the NASCAR Cup car isn't even the fastest car of the 4 series. In fact, it might be the slowest. Not only that, but nobody can friggin' pass each other unless they're on 2-mile tracks. And I'm not talking 2.5 or 2-mile tracks, either the super speedways where they're drafting or in Michigan. They got rid of Auto Club Speedway, which was another one where they could pass. And now you have the situation where unless it's fuel mileage or it's on pit road, these guys literally cannot pass each other because these cars are big, giant blocks of crap. And all they do is suck up so much air that they cut so much air in front of them that the cars behind them can't get up to them to make a pass because they're in what's called dirty air. And this car is so obnoxiously big and box-shaped and ugly as F. They can't do anything. These are the best drivers in the world, and they can't do anything with them. And by the way, Kyle Petty is singing company lines. And Kyle Petty, the ultimate Nepo baby of NASCAR, right? Richard Petty, 200 wins. Kyle Petty, like 6 wins in his career. He wants to come out there and say, this is some of the best racing we've ever seen. No, it's not. You go to a mile-long track like Iowa, which has pretty good speed, pretty good banking, pretty good dynamics for what you should be able to race. You should be able to pass each other back and forth. No, instead, we've got the guy in second place stuck behind the leader, right on his tail, but can't pass him for 50-plus laps. That's not good racing. Maybe Kyle Petty doesn't know what good racing is, but that's not good racing. Okay? Every generation of car before this one, which it was introduced in 2022, and by the way, the numbers towards the front wheel well, total joke, makes it look like a clown show. Put the numbers back in the middle of the damn door. But anyway, from Gen 4, which was 1992 to 2007. Those were the best cars that they ever ran in the sport. Even the car of tomorrow with the stupid wing on it, which they eventually got rid of in 2011, but from 2008 to 2012, better racing than this shit. Sorry, I gotta swear once an episode. Just gotta get it out. Don't even mean to, but it pisses me off. And then the Gen 6 car from 2013 until 2021 produced great racing. Not necessarily great cars, but great racing. These cars do not have enough horsepower, and the aerodynamics suck. How long are we putting up with this for, NASCAR? Because eventually, between your decisions to go away from core tracks into stupid road, we don't need 7 road courses a year. How long before this bites you in the ass? Because leadership has no clue in NASCAR. That's going to be the most impassioned segment of this week's episode of the Terranadome, folks. That's 4 quick picks down and just quick picks. We're not playing the lottery here. Quick hits, 4 down, 1 to go. And it is F it, let's do a fantasy football segment. Now, I know people have asked me in the past to do fantasy football on this show. Fantasy is tough to do in football because it's just there's so many different league formats. There's so many different ways that you can do it, right? It's like the old saying, there's a million ways there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? But let's do like the top 12 picks in the draft from my perspective. We're going to call them PPR, no quarterbacks, okay? I'm going to give you some guys that have bust potential written all over them, and I'm going to give you a bunch of deep sleepers. So here we go, okay? In the first round of the draft, if we're not doing quarterback heavy scoring, or even if we are, in this sense, I'm being a traditionalist, and we're just going to go wide receivers and running backs, right? And I suppose you could argue for Brock Bowers at the end of this round, but here we go. Number one overall pick in the draft. If I'm in a PPR or even a half PPR, I'm taking Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, clear cut number one receiver in the league. I go Jamar Chase. Number two pick in the draft, I would go Bijan Robinson. And honestly, you could flip a coin between Bijan, Frise, and Jamar Chase. I'm a little concerned about the workload that Bijan had last year. Maybe they scale it down just a tiny bit, but he is one of the best, if not the best, running back in football right now. I would go with him number two. Number three, the most explosive running back in football is Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs, number three overall. I do think there's a chance that David Montgomery gets scaled back a little bit this year, and they're going to unleash Jahmyr Gibbs. I expect a really strong year from him. He's an elite running back, an elite talent. Number four in your fantasy drafts, you have the fourth pick. I would take CeeDee Lamb. I would take CeeDee Lamb over Justin Jefferson for the one sole reason that CeeDee Lamb has an accomplished quarterback throwing him the ball. Now, granted, Dak Prescott looked like he had a noodle arm last year before he got hurt, but Dak Prescott is a proven quarterback in this league, at least numbers-wise, regardless of winning or losing. That's a different story for a different day, which we'll, of course, talk about at some point. CeeDee Lamb's your number four pick in the first round of your fantasy draft. Number five is Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson may be more talented than CD, maybe, but he's got J.J. McCarthy throwing on the ball. Maybe a little bit of cause for concern. Number six in the draft, I am going rookie running back of the Las Vegas Raiders. We are going Ashton Gianti, a guy who blew away all of the college records at Boise State. All of the Division I records fell to Ashton Gianti. We will see. We'll see what kind of offensive line the Las Vegas Raiders have, but I do expect that they're going to have a sneaky good season, and I think that means you take Ashton Gianti in the top six of your draft. Number seven of your top 12 in the first round of your 12-team fantasy league drafts. I'm going Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Sun God. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I've seen him ranked as low as like 12 or 13. I just don't see that, folks. I think that Amon-Ra is a complete stud, and he's going to give you exactly what you need. You can't go wrong at number 7 with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jared Goff is still going to chuck the ball a million times. Number 8 and number 9 are interesting, though, because you're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned Saquon Barkley. Here's the thing about Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley had the most volume of his career last year, and he, spoiler alert if you're new to this, Saquon has had a lot of injury problems in his past before he got to Philadelphia. I think there's a chance that that rears its ugly head again. He's certainly in a perfect situation. It's a great offensive line. You got a quarterback that can run the ball, and you got stud receivers on the outside. It's a great offense and a great situation for Saquon, but I wouldn't take him in the top half of the first round. I think there's a chance that the mileage from last year, and we're not just talking about your regular season stats, but of course they ran the crap out of him in the postseason on their way to a Super Bowl too. I would be wary of Saquon Barkley, but I would still take him number 8. Number 9. Derrick Henry, Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry, I know, 31 years old, ancient for a running back, but Derrick Henry defies all age and all logic because he's just that damn good. He's a beast. Baltimore's in a great situation. He's huge. Still has the speed, and I think if they had game planned it the right way against the Buffalo Bills in that AFC divisional round, they would have beaten them. But they chose not to run Derrick Henry in the third and fourth quarter, and I think that cost them. Derrick Henry, your 9th overall pick. And then 10 through 12, I feel like is a little bit of a toss-up. But I'm going to take Nico Collins, number 10, to the Houston Texans. You might be thinking, Scott, you're out of your mind. Well, Yahoo has him ranked higher than I do. Nico Collins has developed into an elite receiver. He doesn't have a ton of competition in that offense for targets this year. There's no more Stephon Diggs. Tank Dell's going to be out for the year. They did bring in Christian Kirk, but Christian Kirk kind of a bum. Nico Collins, number 10 overall with CJ Stroud. I think CJ Stroud in year 3 has a nice bounce back as well. I like Nico Collins, number 10. Last two picks through the first round of your fantasy draft. Give me Malik Neighbors from the Giants at number 11. This kid was an absolute stud as a rookie with nobody throwing him the ball. I at least think with Russell Wilson for the first half of the year, he could really give you some fantasy winning weeks. And overall, we'll finish with strong numbers. I like Malik Neighbors, and maybe slightly more than that, but maybe less assured in the target chart. Brian Thomas, number 12, the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 12 overall. I like Brian Thomas. He had a monster rookie year. Trevor Lawrence needs to play well this year to keep his job, and I know they gave him the big money, but we don't know if Trevor Lawrence is the real deal, but he knew how to find Brian Thomas last year. I think he may have an even better year number 2. Take him with the last pick in the first round of your fantasy drafts. You may have noticed that I didn't mention Christian McCaffrey. That's because Christian McCaffrey is the most injury prone player in the entire league, practically. For bust potentials, I do have Saquon Barkley on here just because I think he might miss a bunch of time. I also have Christian McCaffrey, a guy that has only been healthy one time in the past 4 seasons. Only one time. It was in 2023. Don't forget that. I also have Devin Achane. I have him. Miami's offense could be terrible this year. Don't rule that out. Achane, maybe not a 3-down back. We'll see, but he goes very high in the drafts. In fact, I drafted him in Dynasty with like my 3rd pick, and I'm not sure that I'm really happy about that. Again, more bust. These are all big names. Kyren Williams, to me, is a yearly bust candidate because he can be injury prone. He's a small, undersized back, and he's not very fast. So, I would be looking at somebody like, if I had Kyren Williams, I would be handcuffing him with a Jarquez Hunter. I would. Not Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter. Garrett Wilson is a bust candidate for the Jets, pretty simply because Justin Fields is throwing him the ball. If you can't figure that one out, then I don't know what to tell you. Tyreek Hill is a bust candidate because, let's face it, he looked like he slowed down last season. I think Mike McDaniel's offense is played out in Miami. Tyreek Hill is a bust candidate. Kenny Walker from Seattle is a bust candidate, a guy that really barely averages 4 yards a carry, seems to get nagging injuries all the time. I like Zach Charbonnet a lot in Seattle. I do not like Kenny Walker. More bust potential, Breece Hall from the Jets. Similar reason. If Breece Hall couldn't do anything with Aaron Rodgers last year, what's he going to do with Justin Fields? Just 2 more on the bust potential list. I mean, there are millions of bust potentials, right? But we'll go Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice out of Kansas City. Rashee Rice is a bust potential, mainly because he could end up missing 6 games in the middle of the season. That's going to screw you up. And finally, in Carolina, you have Tet McMillan. And the only reason that I think Tet McMillan I think is a great talent, but he seems kind of lackadaisical, maybe lazy, maybe doesn't like to study the playbooks. And oh yeah, Bryce Young is throwing him the ball. So if you think Bryce Young is going to take a big leap in what would be, I think, year 3, it's possible because Bryce Young played pretty well down the stretch last year, but I don't like Tet McMillan in that spot. So there's your bust potential. Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Devin Achane, Kyren Williams, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Kenny Walker, Breece Hall, Rashee Rice, and Tet McMillan. Now I'm going to give you some sleepers, and these are deep sea dumpster diving sleeper potential. These are going to be almost all running backs except for 2 receivers on the end. Running back sleepers. We have Ollie Gordon out of Miami. And the reason I'm going to tell you that is because Ollie Gordon is a big back at 6'1", 226. And the 2 guys ahead of him on the depth chart are Devin Achane, who's tiny and has been a little bit injury prone. I mean, it's the NFL, so any guy can be injury prone, but A-Chain a little injury prone, and Jalen Wright, who I don't trust. Those are the two guys ahead of him. I like Ollie Gordon. Late in your drafts. You can get him real late in your drafts. Dylan Sampson, the running back from Cleveland. I don't know if you know this, but Quidshawn Jenkins is in a bit of legal trouble. And Jerome Ford just isn't very good. Dylan Sampson, a guy I would target in like the 14th or 15th round of your draft if you can get him. Dylan Sampson, a raw talent, but somebody that could absolutely take that job in Cleveland. I continue. Taj Brooks of Cincinnati. Taj Brooks, a lot of good reports out of training camp. I don't know that much about him, but what I know for sure is that Chase Brown is an undersized back, and as good as he appears to be in the numbers game, is not a good runner between the tackles. Taj Brooks is a really good handcuff if you have Chase Brown. In Jacksonville, Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne are not a sure thing in any respect whatsoever. I like Bahishal Tootin. Tootin looks like a good all-around running back, and I could easily see a role for him if one of those two guys gets hurt. But just remember, Travis Etienne hasn't done a damn thing in 2 years. And Tank Bigsby fumbles the ball too much. By Bhaysashul Tootin. That's a guy that you might want to look at the end of your drafts. And finally, from the Washington Commanders, we have Ja'Cory Frosky Merritt, a guy that was looking to be a high pick after 2023 with the numbers that he had, came back down to earth in 2024, but Washington still took him in the 7th round. Washington has one of the most unimpressive 1-2 punches in the NFL with Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. Eckler is on his last leg, and Brian Robinson is just a guy, okay? I know he got shot in the leg. He came back. That's cool. Good story. Good for him for persevering. That's crazy. Ja'Cory Frosky Merritt is a guy you should be looking at the very end of your fantasy drafts. And quickly, on sleepers, I'll give you two wide receivers here. One of them, Pats fans, should make complete sense to you. Demario Douglas. To me, Demario Douglas is easily the number 2 wide receiver in this offense. The slot guy in a Josh McDaniels offense is going to give you a ton of volume. I think Demario Douglas is a lock for 85 catches and 1,000 yards. I don't know about the touchdowns, but in PPRs, go get Demario Douglas. You can get him very late in the draft, and you'll reward yourself. Finally, I have a guy named Jack Beck from the Vegas Raiders. And the reason that I bring up Jack Beck is because the Raiders don't have a lot of options at wide receiver. Of course, you've got Brock Bowers. But Jacoby Myers at this point best suited as a slot guy. That gives a guy like Jack Beck some room to operate on either side of the sticks. I like Jack Beck. You're going to get Jack Beck in like the 14th or 15th round or something, maybe the 12th or 13th round. But at that point in your draft, that's when you take swings at potential home runs. That's it for the Quick Hits episodes, folks. My name is Scott Terrana. It's the Terranadome's very quick episode this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your continued support. One of the coolest things for me about doing this show is that it seems like almost every week I found out that somebody new was watching the show or that I never anticipated would have been before. Even if you're criticizing me, and rightly so, for saying that the Red Sox were going to go out and make a big move, and they didn't. And Josh called me out on the show last week for that, but I had another friend checked in and said, I thought you were going to do this. My only response to that is thank you for listening to the show. I very much appreciate it. Tell somebody you love them today because tomorrow is not promised, folks. We will be back next week with an all-new Terranadome, and then the week after that, we will have the big NFL preview episode. Be well, my friends. Enjoy the rest of the summer while you can. Be good to one another. Please hit that like and subscribe button. And other than that, peace. Terranadome. Minnesota was doomed from the start. I mean, this was a ass whooping. There's nothing short of that. It was a complete ass whooping. But I will tell you what, my friend, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. And it is time to get them back in the AFC Championship game. I believe that, listen, you're right about Derrick Henry, especially in cold weather. No one's going to want to tackle that guy. So it's going to be imperative for the Buffalo Bills to jump out early in this game and get a lead and force Lamar Jackson to have to play from behind. They can do that. They're going to win this game. Mention things that we love to hear, like we're getting the entitlement out of our team, and we're going to earn the opportunity to come into this building every day. I absolutely love that. One thing I will say for sure, yes, they definitely need to go and spend some friggin' money. They're going to have the most cap space in the league, and I'm going to kill them every week on this show until they spend money.
Known as fair square throughout my years, so I growl at the living foul. Black to the bone, my home is your home.
Well, welcome to Terranadome.